Thanks for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast with my guest today, Chris Berardo from Chris Berardo and The DesBerardos. If you like what you hear today, be sure to follow us, like it, share the show aggressively with everyone you know. You can also give it a big fat rating. That would be fantastic. Also, be sure to follow the show on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to find out about future episodes. Today, we're brought to you by Metro, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram at Chicopee. Be sure to check out their state-of-the-art dealership next to BJ's and Big Y on Memorial Drive, or find them online at metrojeep.com and drive home your new Metro, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram today. And now here's today's episode of Baxie's Musical Podcast.
It's Baxie's Musical Podcast.
Here's something that's kind of true. Most people can do one or two things really well. Not all people, but a healthy number of people are pretty good at least something. Occasionally, you'll find that there are people who are good at a number of things. And then there's another group of folks who have found a way to harness all of those things that they're good at, work tirelessly to get even better, and then have the tenacity to do something with it and not keep it all for themselves. For the last 25 years, singer Chris Berardo has played all over the country. He's been writing amazing songs, often drawn from his own life's experience. But what really separates a guy like Chris Berardo from other people is the way he binds both things together with his incredibly rich and soulful and totally authentic singing voice that makes you believe in the sincerity of everything he's trying to sing in his music. That's actually a pretty rare trifecta in the world of music. Lots of people can sing stuff. Not everyone has the ability, the talent, the sincerity, or the guts to bring it all together in a total package, unless you're either born into it or you're incredibly motivated to plow right through difficult times to make it happen. In this case, Chris is one of those rare unicorns of the world that's a combination of all of that. Late last month, Chris Berardo released his long overdue fourth album, Wilder All the Time. It's an album that's filled with real, honest-to-goodness passion and sincerity, with singles like Take Me Back and Take a Little, which are among some of the best songs of his career. These are songs that not only reflect the difficulties and challenges of life, they also embrace a sense of gratitude and optimism, especially as he struggled with his own health issues over the last several years. And yet, I wouldn't exactly call this a comeback album. I would call it an important progression forward, one that he's able to share with relentless hard work and constant performing. The result is a really great effort from a singer who deserves attention, applause, and respect for not letting anything get in the way. This is my conversation with Chris Berardo from Chris Berardo and The DesBerardos on Baxie's Musical Podcast. It's so nice to talk to someone who's only 90 miles away for a change. And I got you coming out. I got you coming out of the music capital of the Northeast, Norwalk, Connecticut. How very exciting is that?
Yeah, that's a real hotbed up here. Where are you at?
In Springfield.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're cold too.
Oh yeah. I'm cold and melting, thank goodness. But
Yeah, no, I'm here in the woods in Silver Mine, which is just a part of like Norwalk, and it's an unusual place for guys like me.
yeah. Well, congratulations on the new record, Wilder All the Time. I know it's taken some time to put this record out, and there's a number of reasons for that. Some things have gotten in the way, but it certainly seems like you've got this amazing knack for endurance and tenacity and positivity, and you're combining that with a lot of really hard work. Where does that energy come from for you?
Yeah, well, there might be a fine line, right, between tenacity and just being nuts. I think number one, I'd always remind myself that while it's true that this racket that I'm in and have chosen is full of ups and downs, like so many other things in life, and a lot of disappointments and bruises and bumps. But first off, it wasn't court ordered. I didn't have to do it, so it's a choice, and it's a good job, man. With all of that being said, it's I think the thing that keeps you going when it's sometimes not as rewarding as you hoped it would be is that the reward is in the doing. The process is something I love. the results don't, you don't even need a payoff because it's another day you got to do it. And honestly, every day that I get up through all of this, even when it's a tough time, I sometimes feel like, boy, I almost every day feel like, all right, this is great. Like something great might happen, or I might get to do something great. And I'm not as insane as that sounds because I'm full of, I'm full of, I can whine and stomp my feet around when things don't go my way. But I think to answer your question, just it's every day you get a chance to do it is it's a fun day. You get to express yourself and work with like-minded people and sing. And I haven't paid for a beer since the early '80s. So
That's all the reason you need to be tenacious.
yeah, that'll keep your nose to
Yeah.
the grind. Yeah, yeah.
After listening to the record, I get the sense that the longer that you are in this, the closer you get to not so much finding your voice per se, but the closer you get to finding yourself reflected in the songs that you're writing. And especially in a song like "Take Me Back," where you're talking about some pretty serious heady stuff, not just about holding on to your youth, but also managing some pretty serious health issues that you've dealt with over the course of time. Tell me about that song, and more importantly, how are you feeling today?
Oh, thank you for asking. On both counts, I feel great. I did have a challenge, and I was lucky. And it's another reason I don't mind talking about it, but it's a thing I don't like to. Some people went through way worse things, even people who had something similar to me. So I was lucky. I had great people, and I feel great. So that's another reason to just feel like lucky me. But it was a serious thing, and it made me kind of reconsider, like you said, just the I had behaved in one way all my life, kind of with much disregard for the consequences, and I'm good at that. I'm highly trained for that. So, um, but yeah, that did make me kind of put the brakes on for like a minute. And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think, in life. I'm not 20, I'm not a kid. And having to take a minute to just shut it down for a second and take stock was not a bad thing to do. It's a funny thing because I would, I know it sounds insane, but I would almost not give it back. It allowed me to just to reassess and realize again how lucky I am. And then also I just have this thing, I've said it before, that the math tells me that something's going to happen, like something, we're not going to skate, all of us, none of us. So I kept my, thinking, when's my time? And when it comes and you get lucky enough to get through it, I feel like, all right, good. I don't have to keep my head on a swivel so completely anymore, waiting for something to happen. But I did get that song out of it, and I wasn't someone who, looked back a lot, but it was that. It's a minute of maybe just longing for youth and times when things were simpler, and having to face up to some adult stuff that you just wish you didn't have to.
There's a great message in that song and what you're saying, that no matter what calamity or difficulty you're facing, that there's more to do, and that there's more living that needs to be done. And it's such a a positive outlook on things. And I don't get the sense from talking to you just the first 6 minutes of this conversation that these are simply platitudes for you. That this is just who you are as a person, even in spite of being knocked around a little bit. There's a positivity and a forward momentum in the things you do, and the way you conduct yourself.
Well, thank you. I'd hope so. I hope that that's true. um, but I think it is my nature to try to, it's one thing, like we keep saying, there's so many bumps and bruises in this business and disappointments. I think you do train yourself to, you either get out or you train yourself to put those behind you, or to find the opportunity. And the crisis, Homer Simpson called it a crisis-opportunity. You could, yeah, I think you get to where you program yourself for that, and get a little, the things don't knock you down quite as hard, and everything's not as much of a tragedy. You just get up and start swinging again. I think I'm like that. My dad was like that. And so we're all a product of our environment, right? Like, just get in there, get it done. Ex-Marine, didn't want to hear a lot of whining from anybody. So I think that's in there. But I just, I wanted to do it so much. I think you have to have a real joy in it, because nobody is going to just keep getting at it if there's no joy. That's some people I see in this business, and I want to tell them, maybe a kid or something, like, hey, if you're not having fun, don't wait for the big payday or the big moment where it's all going to pay off, because that may happen. But so what, man? Enjoy it now, and it may not happen. It likely won't happen. You better start digging what you can now. And I think I've learned to basically to amuse myself.
There's a couple other songs on the record that I really, really enjoyed a lot, and it's based primarily on the quality of the songwriting. And the one that really leaped out at me was "Take a Little Love." And as I'm listening to it, I'm trying to figure out, like, who does that sound like? It reminds me of somebody. I couldn't put my finger on it, and then it hit me that it sounds like something that you might hear from a guy, say, like John Bryan, another Connecticut-based songwriter who went on to amazing success scoring films. And it's like, and I mean that in the highest compliment, because he's an amazing songwriter, and that song has that same kind of melodic quality to it. It's really a beautiful, beautiful song.
Oh, thank you so much. I wish I knew John's work, but I'm sorry that I don't. That's my fault.
Well,
but
you've got homework to do then.
yeah, I absolutely will. Absolutely will. But if it's something you love, then I absolutely appreciate the comparison. That one I wrote as sort of more of a gentle country ditty, was really the first idea. And the producer, David Abeda, heard it as, oh, that's a big ballad. Like on Broadway, we call it a 9 o'clock number. So, and I was very open to trying it. And I know, it's not hard to get me to go for a big ballad, because, I'm all for that. I like a big moment. So we I just opened to it and tried it. And I do. I love that song. It means a lot to me. It's kind of, I don't know if it's simple, but it is sort of. I think it's just as simple as could be, really. Yeah. Just some lyrics about trying to, hey, give it a try.
The other one that I really enjoyed, and it's not one of the singles. It's another, it's an album track, but I really, really enjoyed "The King of Fun." I mean, it's the longest song in the record, but it's just it's a great freaking rock song. Tell me a little bit about that one.
Thank you. I do like that too. It's madness. That too. It's every time I've heard the track, when it ends, I just crack up. It's just madness. And we played it live many times, and it's fun to play. And I almost called the album "King of Fun," but I had a feeling like, it's hard to live up to that every night out at the, in the club or the bar or at the show. But I love it. It's just a romp, it's I just had in my mind, me and the band going through all these adventures that we have for many years, and various hotel rooms, and mix-ups, misunderstandings that can arise. So, and it's just a throwdown. And
so your story is actually a pretty interesting one. I've listened to a couple of other interviews, and I've read some interviews that you've done, and one of the things that pretty interesting to me is your mother was a singer, and in fact a really damn good one. And then at some point in her early musical career, she just walked away from it all. Tell me a little bit about that, and about your mom and the talent that she had.
Oh, sure, she'll love this. She is an amazing singer. I mean, just one of those natural voices, like the crooners from the 40s and 50s and 60s, like a real Streisand, belter. It's just there. And she started to do it when she was a kid, just in, singing groups and stuff in high school with her friends. And I guess when she was about 18, she somebody heard her, and she got a gig singing in the lounge at the Copa in New York City, which is like, not the main room, but the lounge, and which is incredible. And, and she was beautiful, and she had all the makings of it. And she is a big personality too. So, but that time, she always would tell me that in those days, she lived in Yonkers, New York, which is outside of New York City. That's where we were from. And, just taking the subway around New York, taking the train in New York, like as a single woman, when you're 18, she said that, it's not like now, that would be unusual. And that, even though she's got this big personality, she didn't, and she'll always say to me, she didn't have that muscle. She always says to me and my brother, who are both musicians, like, well, I don't know how you do that part of it, because, she wants to sing, she wants to be the center of attention, but she doesn't want she doesn't want the thing she doesn't want. She didn't have the thing about the I have to do this. And a lot of this business is like, if you can do something else, you should,
Yeah, right.
and I think she felt like she could do other things, but she's, yeah, got a great voice, and she knows it. And I know when she sees this, I want to remind her that 2 Christmases, I guess, ago, we did a couple Christmas songs we recorded, and I did the classic "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" as well as one of my songs, a holiday song. And she told me how much she loved the holiday song I wrote, but never mentions "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas" because I know that she knows she sings it better. So I still haven't heard a word from Mom about that record. So
It's always
I
good to
gotta
have a healthy competition with your mother. That's that's really good. So,
yeah, I come out of the short end of that one. So
so between what she knew of the perils of the music business from, back in the 50s and 60s, how did she feel about you and your brother going into music? Was she supportive of that? Was she concerned?
all of those things, yeah. My dad too, very supportive, very concerned. I was older, so I was the first one to do it, and I think believe me, there was a lot. I mean, now I consider them very supportive and the best fans you could have. But my dad, we had a lot of bump ups about it. We had a lot of, it was not easy, and it was. I'm happy for all that because they weren't giving it away. I have very good friends that were in family bands and came from a tradition where everybody was an artist or musicians, and that's great. But they didn't have to sort of fight for it every day like I did. Like I had to prove myself that if
Right.
this wasn't a crackpot idea, every day for years, and some days went better than others. But yeah, they were concerned. I don't know if they loved the idea, but and my mom would say things like, "Well, it's a broken heart for every light on Broadway." And I'm like, thanks, Mom.
Y-
But then I think years later, when they found out, like, he's actually, he's not kidding around. He might actually mean this. Then they became real supportive and the best guys you could have around.
You talked about growing up just outside, New York City. I think you said Yonkers or New Rochelle, that area. How did music really start to take a hold of you? I mean, apart from, what you had experienced with your mom singing around the house or whatever it may have been, what was it that got you ultimately hooked?
Well, I mean, early on my own, I had a babysitter, Kathy Downs, who I had a crush on when I was, 7, and she brought me all her Monkees albums because she was growing out of it, I guess, wasn't me? But I wasn't, and I thought this is the greatest thing that's ever happened, and not knowing at the time that I was listening to songs written by Neil Diamond and Carole King, and and Mike Nesmith of the Monkees wrote these great country rock songs that I didn't know that's what I was being turned on to. And from that moment on, I just thought, there's what else could you want to do? And then a lucky stroke was I had a neighbor 2 houses down, and we lived in a neighborhood where there were like no kids. It was a strange sort of place. And 2 houses over was this Kenny Krasny, and Kenny was 2 years older than me. So say when I met him, I was 10. He was like 12, so he like knew stuff. Like he was,
He's a man of the
he.
world at 12.
Oh man, yes, sir. Yeah, I believe you weren't asked that in my memory, but he, and he had like a quadraphonic sound system and record, like real grown up records. And then about 2 years later, he started a band in his basement, and he didn't know I could sing. Nobody did, but so that was the first time I got my nerve up to go ask him if I could sing with his band in the basement. And so he was a conduit to stuff like that, then that was it for me. Once I saw you could do it, once I sang into that microphone with the band and all the girls down there in the basement, and everybody, said, look at that, and applauded. And my feeling was, I knew it. Like I was sure I could do this. I thought I was good at this. And that was it, man. I was off to the races.
You at some point you decide to go to New York and you're auditioning for bands and auditioning for work and joining bands and leaving bands, and you're going through this entire process of trying to start your career going. And I realize that that's all part of the musical territory to kind of try to create something out of nothing and to be competing against other people. But there's probably 50,000 other singers in New York at any one given time. What was that process like for you heading into the city and saying, okay, I want to see if I can where do I stack up here? Who can I sing with? What is going to separate me from the other 49,999 other singers?
Yeah, no, I didn't notice any of those guys.
But it is true, though. I mean,
Yeah,
it is an amazingly, exasperating and in some ways, real difficult process to get to
yeah,
a certain level and get noticed and then stay there.
definitely is. And like I did it really ground up. I just moved out to on a whim to with the aforementioned Ken Krasny because he had started out at college and they had a band down there in D.C. And I had just started at University of Miami, and he said, "Well, why don't you stop going to school and come down here and be in the band?" And I said, "Okay, I'll do that." So I did that, and then when that didn't work out, on another whim, I went out to LA with a couple of buddies and started auditioning for things. I was like 18 or something, and just audition, found a great band. But when that ran its course, came back to New York, and as you're describing, I just get out. I think at the time it was called the I forget what the paper was, the Aquarian maybe, and I started digging in, driving to auditions in Brooklyn and in the Bronx and anywhere upstate. Just started wanting, because I wasn't really a songwriter yet, and I felt I needed at that point someone who had songs in a band. I hadn't even done that part yet. And invariably, I'd get to Sheepshead Bay or something, and you go down, and the ad would always say, record company interest, and about to sign an album deal. And I came to learn, if you don't have a singer, you probably aren't about to sign an album deal. But I'd get there, and I'd be in their mom's basement with the washing machines and these crappy songs, but I just kept doing it because I wanted to be in a band until I met enough people that were sort of like-minded, and I started to realize I think I could do that part better. But I did it, ground up. I would do anything. I'd drive anywhere. So
Sometimes I wonder when you hear young kids say, "Yeah, we got record company interest." If it wasn't a real record company, or was it just the Columbia House Record and Tape Club that wanted to sell you
yeah.
12 albums for a penny? I mean, that's not exactly the deal of the century.
No, but you got a lot of records in the house. Yeah, you might as well have been saying that because people had such ridiculous stories. It was always a connection that their uncle had at some label or something. But that was I learned how to audition, which is a skill in itself. And I think you can apply that to things you do later. I learned how to get in a situation, put my best foot forward, and find out what was needed in that moment. And
Yeah.
I think that's a cool skill. I still call on that once in a while, I bet.
So that move to Los Angeles after you'd been in New York for a number of years. I mean, was this like the late '80s, early '90s, like that?
Yeah, this is the second time. A
Okay.
second time, like I'd gone out there on an exploratory mission with a few friends and found a cool band, but it wasn't the band for me. But I just wanted to do it, and
Yeah.
was working at the Wiener Schnitzel, and just we were just looking to do just looking for high adventure. But came back, did the New York scene for a long time, and then moved to LA because I had been working with a great manager. He's gone now, the late great Bill O'Coin, who managed Kiss and Billy Idol, and he had been with the band that I was doing in New York. We had a lot of interest, and we were being produced by big producers, and we had all the things in place. It was a great band too, great singers, and me and Bill Sinkey wrote most of the songs. But when Bill O'Coin made another move out to LA with his business, he summoned me. He said, "Come out here." And he was working at the time with the great Bob Crewe, the great Hall of Fame songwriter,
Hmm.
and they were doing something for a movie. It was actually for the movie Wall Street. And he said, "Come out here and sing. He wants you to sing on this." And so I went out. I did it. I hung around. Bob Crewe liked my music. We started to hit it off. So I stayed sleeping on couches and wherever I could in LA. Called for my guitar player to come out. I didn't mean to stay out there, but I looked up and we put our own band together, and Bob Crewe produced our recordings out there. And I just looked up, and there I was now in LA. And it was like by then late '80s, and the business had really moved there, the music business. So
Yeah.
on the one hand, it was great and it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the the big problems about the 80s and 90s is it really was almost too much fun for some people. But I
I
want
got
to,
a high bar. I can take it.
yeah, well, a high bar in Los Angeles is different than a high bar in New York, that's for sure.
Norwalk.
But but I want to ask you a little bit more about Bill Aucoin because I think that's really really interesting. Like you said, there's a guy that worked with Kiss for almost 10 years, and he worked with Billy Idol, and
Yeah, to put them together. He worked with them since they were Wicked Lester in
right,
Brooklyn.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, how does a guy like Bill Aucoin come into into the picture for you?
It was the quickest way I can tell you is that, like I said, I'm just looking for bands, looking for anything, and I'd been in a this one band called I auditioned out in like Rockland County, and they were older guys, but they had cool songs, and they didn't. I just didn't feel like it was for me. They were older. They'd already had so many bumps and bruises that that was taking it. I still felt like ready to go, so they weren't the guys for me. But they had cool songs, and I joined up with another band in White Plains, and they were called EXP, and they were like almost like Rush, like progressive, and that wasn't for me. But I would do anything, let me try it, I'll give it a go. And that band was playing at Great Gildersleeves in New York City many years ago on the Bowery, and a bunch of fantastic looking girls came in. They liked the band. It turned out they all lived at the Tudor Hotel, which was like the model hotel where they put all the models in New York City. And they invited me to a party where the owner of the hotel came up to me, said he'd heard about the band, and he was this very connected, wealthy guy. And he brought me into a big studio with Gary Lyons, the guy, he produced the Rolling Stones and Foreigner. So this was all happening. But when they brought me in, because I know that guy didn't know that much about music, he just heard we were good from these girls. And when we got in there, I thought I better have better songs, and I didn't have my own songs yet. So I called those other guys and said, I got something happening here. I got a scheme cooking. so called them up, and nobody noticed it was a different band. They're just like, yeah, they had good songs. And that started that. Those people brought in Bill Aucoin. And when Aucoin got to know me better, he said, like, well, are you a songwriter? I said, well, yeah, I think I've been starting to, and I want to. And he said, like, they were trying to make me more of a pop idol guy and like pop rock. And he said, let me hear your songs. And I was writing with this guy, Bill Sinkay, who we'd been writing our own stuff, just starting to. So that, as I remember, that's how it all started to fall together. And Aucoin said, like, yeah, no, this is what you are. These songs you're writing are you. And I didn't know that I could do that, that you were allowed, but I did. And he went with it from there and rolled with it. And we put together this band Sleeper in New York City that was great, and played my songs, and we wrote some things together for the next 6 or 7 years. We were like one of the cool band in New York City, I think. And that brought us out to LA with Aucoin.
You mentioned earlier your brother, Mark Douglas Berardo, he's got a successful career of his own, but he still plays with your band, the DesBerardos, and has for years. Tell me about him and about working with your brother. I know there's a pretty decent age gap between the two of you, but tell me about the dynamic of working with your brother on your own music.
It's a walking nightmare. It's fantastic. I mean, yeah, he's Mark Douglas Berardo. He's a singer-songwriter with lots of albums out and touring all the time, and doing great. But when I came back from that LA move after a few years, and it was really for me a restart, because that had come so close to a lot of things we hoped for. It kind of crashed down when everybody in Hollywood in the late 80s was starting to smoke cocaine, and I wasn't. So that's where everything started to, drugs have taken it out of my career, and I don't do them. But so I came home and just restart and started looking for other things. And in the meantime, ran into my brother, who, like you say, we had an age gap. And because it's like 9 years different, when you're growing up, you don't even know that guy that well, Like
Right.
I was leaving high school when he was whatever that is, like he was probably 8 or 9 or something. So we came when I ran into him when I got back here, and he had taken up the guitar. I think he had just kind of recently done that, and I said, well, we always laugh because I said to him, do you drink beer? And he's like, yeah, I do. And because I wanted to take him out to this bar, and like, years later, after every horrifying, dangerous nutbag story, like, yeah, we drink beer. But but I wanted to take him over to this bar and we just played for some guy, and I don't think we were auditioning. We just we were really having fun, like playing old songs that I loved. And somebody said, well, come in here and we'll pay you this much. And another guy said, well, come over here on Sundays. And me and Mark just learned 30 songs. And they were the kind of songs I loved and wasn't doing enough of in my own music. Like it really reset me. What I loved from the radio in the, 70s and 80s and things that I just wanted to sing even more than what I'd been doing. So it helped me like that. And me and Mark played I'm not kidding, 8 times a week for like years, not always, but a lot of times we'd have 2 a day and we just played. And that was a great way for me to restart the engine and just get at it in every bar with the neon in the window that would have us. So that was fun. And then when I started building the band back up, I was so happy that Mark, he was sort of the engine of it. It started from the 2 of us, built out. And now that he's so busy, I don't get to have him all the time. And I'm happy when I do, because we definitely have a thing. There's a music thing there that you cannot buy. You can't steal that one. So happy to still do that when we can.
One of the things that I've read a lot about you and about the DesBerardos is about you playing live, and I've seen a couple videos online on YouTube, and I'm impressed with the dedication you guys have, specifically you, about playing live, because you bring a level of sincerity and then combining it with some showmanship as well, and you really don't see enough of that in live performances. I mean, you don't need to have like a $6 million Taylor Swift production budget to be great live. And like I said, I wish I'd see that with more artists, but it really does seem like a skill set that you've really embraced and have become really known for. Tell me about playing live and how you approach it.
Well, I mean, I love it, and it's the payoff to me, and it's the everything else is great, and I love making records. Never as much as I do now with David Abeda and these records that we've been making lately. It's brought a new level of joy to that process to me. But I had a manager back when who said to me when he first met me, like, well, what do you see? Like, what are you looking for? Do you want to sell 1 million records, or do you, and I said, well, my daydream, and this is true since I was a kid and still, when I have like a daydream of something great, it's the perfect gig. It's never accepting a gold record for sales, or it's never, that I bought some big house. It's always the gig. It's always, that's the payoff to me. Like the other things are the calling card, are the things you have to do so that you can go play, because that's where the fun is. and I love it. And like I said, it jiggered some of that, me and Mark, in those early days together, because playing. And it is, you're right. It's a skill, I think, that's going away. I mean, like culturally, we had a kid who asked us at a show completely sincerely why we played drums and guitars, because you could do that, in GarageBand, and he meant it.
Yeah.
And after we let him down off of the wall, like but it's a diminishing skill, and it's the thing I love, man. I love a great band more than there's nothing I'd rather spend my time with.
I mean, do you remember, years ago when you would hear your band say, we want to recreate our live sound on record, and now it seems like the last thing you'd want to do is create your live sound on record, because your live sound is horseshit.
Yeah.
If it weren't for auto-tune, you shouldn't be stepping on a stage. And so, there is a difference between, you're right about, today's philosophy about it and yesterday's philosophy about it. So when you do see someone that embraces live performance, it's really hard not to appreciate the effort and talent and skill that it takes to do it right.
Well, thank you for including us in that group. Like I said, I love it. It's not hard work, because it's so great when it works. Getting the right guys has been a lifelong thing with me, and I've been really lucky. I had a steady-ish band, pretty much, a lot of guys in and out, but a really good core for a long time, and that is not usual either. I mean, it's not, unless your band is really making the kind of money where when people's lives change, you can still continue. I mean, we didn't have that. But I still had a really great core of talented, good guys and no assholes, which was like, that cuts the pool down, that cut tremendously. Like, we didn't want anybody in the van that wasn't funny, or smart. So, but once you get the right guys together, there's no other feeling. And I think in my genre and the kind of stuff I love, you got to go play. Otherwise, I don't buy it. If I can't go see a guy do it, then I'm not that interested. I think that's why we're here.
One of the other projects I wanted to ask you about is, and I was listening to a little bit the other day, is the Operation Mend album that you were part of last year. You did a great version of Nick Lowe's "What's So Funny About Peace, Love, and Understanding," and this is a fundraiser for post 9/11 war veterans, and it's really really fantastic. Tell me about your involvement with Operation Mend.
Well, it came through Blue Lawn Records, which is who's I'm with now and is putting out this upcoming album. They're based in LA, and they had done one of these before. They're great with lots of things like this, charities and good ideas like this. They walk the walk, as they say. And so they had already done one by the time I fell in with them, and they're doing the second one. It's for the UCLA Medical Center, and I just had been recording a couple covers. I like to do a fun cover and redo it and make it your own. As a singer, it's a joy to sing a great song, and I get tired of listening to me sometimes. And so I did have a couple, because we'd had a deal with BMG, which we ended up not doing and doing this record instead that we are now with Blue Lawn. But they had asked me to do a few songs that for sync, in case, anything I thought would be fun that they own the titles on and the publishing. And me and David went through the list, and as soon as we saw that one, yeah, that'd be great. That's a good idea anyway. Like, I should be playing that song. It's so great. So when it fit in lyrically and the feel of it and all, I was happy to get involved. And the rest of that album are all Blue Lawn artists, and it's great. It's a lot of people with interesting covers, a couple people's original things, but just great artists, and it's a joy to listen to. And it's for a great, real cause. I'm glad to be part of that.
Like you said, it is a joy to listen to, and so is the new record. I was listening to it, it's like, it was really, really enjoying what you had done, and having heard some of your older stuff, I'm like, you know what? Again, that tenacity, that hard work has paid off. I think this is maybe the best record you've done.
Oh, thank you. I feel like it's a continuation. I definitely feel like it's different. There's been a lot of time between them, which is one thing. Things change, but this one, for lots of reasons, has taken a lot of twists and turns, and there's been a lot of time in between. And I think if you keep moving like you should, things change, and you should sound different and think different. Yeah. But also the sound of the band live all those years, I always wanted to get closer to that. And it took a while to find a producer I thought really understood what I meant by that. And the guys to play it, we've been playing, three of us from my band that are on this record have been Bill Kelly and my brother Mark Douglas, been playing together a long time now. So you hopefully get better as a writer. And I just think it is the next version of it. It's kind of where I wanted it to be for a long time, but you don't just get that by showing up. You got to put the time in. And I'm very comfortable with this one and how it sounds and representing where I'm at.
No, you should be real proud of it. It's fantastic. Chris, it's a real pleasure to talk to you. I wish you best of luck with the record, and please stay healthy.
I will. I absolutely will. And thank you for your time. I really enjoyed it. This is fun. Let's do it again sometime. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Have a great night.
All right.
Bye-bye now.
Cheers.
The name of the new album from Chris Berardo is called Wilder All the Time. It's available on Blue Lawn Records. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to let me know about it. You can always email me at baxie@rock102.com. I'd love to hear what you think. Thanks to Metro, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram for their support. But most of all, thank you for listening to Baxie's Musical Podcast.